If you'd like to meet the people who are supposed to repair the state of the world, or give a piece of your mind to the bankers who helped get us into this mess, we can tell you where to find a lot of them. The World Economic Forum. It is a tiny town folded into the Swiss Alps, a village where you could bump into Bill Clinton, Bill Gates, the head of Google, and the Queen of Jordan, all in one place. A lot of reporters cover the forum, but few get inside.
We need a great reset. Your Royal Highnesses, Excellencies, distinguished heads of state and government, the future is built by us, by a powerful community as you here in this room. I created the community of global shapers as a means, as a force to shape our common future. We penetrate the cabinets.
They will likely tend to govern a certain way.
Nobody will be safe.
Here we are now with an economy in crisis, but with an incredible opportunity.
It's certainly a major crisis, but it also offers us a unique opportunity.
Unprecedented opportunity to rethink and reset.
The great opportunity for reset.
Opportunity for us to reset.
For a reset.
It's almost as if they all attended the same school of thought and studied under the same professor.
Some people would say this revolution is characterized by the fight of robots against human beings. And we will win this fight.
Plantar las ideas de la libertad en un foro que está contaminado de la Agenda Socialista 2030 y que lo único que va a traer es miseria al mundo.
Todos los que, digamos, los colectivistas, los que ponen, digamos, o sea, esa idea... A ver,
¿por qué le pones de mierda, digamos?
Porque son una mierda. O sea,
vos mezclás...
No, pero es que si pensás... Pero si pensás distinto te van a aniquilar. Ese es el punto. Es decir, vos al zurdo no le podés dar un milímetro, porque le das un milímetro y lo toma para destrozarte. Es decir, o sea, vos no podés negociar con el zurdo, no se negocia en pelear con las herramientas legítimas, se apalancan en el aparato represivo del Estado, poniendo torres de guita para hacernos mierda. Y aún así no pueden, tuvieron que bajar la nota, ¿me entendés? Que están perdiendo. Están desesperados, están perdiendo la batalla cultural, los zurdos de mierda. Por primera vez se ven acorralados los zurdos de mierda.
You have this anti-system movement. What we are seeing is a revolution against the system. So fixing the present system is not enough. Now there is, of course, an anti-system which is called libertarianism, which means to tear down everything which creates some kind of influence of government into private lives. It's dismantling the system.
If we lose freedom here, there's no place to escape to. This is the last stand on earth. And this idea that government is beholden to the people, that it has no other source of power except the sovereign people, is still the newest and the most unique idea in all the long history of man's relation to man. This is the issue of this election. Whether we believe in our capacity for self-government or whether we abandon the American Revolution and confess that a little intellectual elite in a far distant capital can plan our lives for us better than we can plan them ourselves.
Argentina's President Javier Milei just went straight into the belly of the beast. Many speculated that Milei was a WEF puppet or sympathizer. I think we can rest assured after what he did in Davos and all the smoke he just welcomed, he without a doubt practices what he preaches. Unlike a lot of maybe woke regarded individuals in the West pillaging your pocket, and they love to do so through the invisible tax of inflation so they can continue policing the world, building up their bureaucratic democratic state, running up those endless debts, not to mention in recent time, the endless violations of natural rights, the endless fear campaigns, all of it, all for control, all to steal, plunder, and try to maintain their illusion of power. And Milei is an example. Heroes of freedom always go headlong into the lion's den, and as Milei has an epic history of doing so, he did not disappoint. Milei came in with the Liberty Arsenal, the message of freedom and sound money, and in hearing his speech, you can't help but think, man, an idea whose time has come cannot be stopped.
The Mises Caucus and the Libertarian Party has a job on their hands to make sure that Libertarian Party represents the views of libertarianism. They stand up for these.
We must be true to that inheritance. Enough putting people to sleep already. It's time we finally woke them up.
The people know about it. They're awakening to this. They're listening to this message. It's up to us to do something about it.
People crave authenticity.
If you're going to get involved, this is serious, you better have some fun.
This caucus is 3 years old, and it is the force in the Libertarian Party today.
I sort of have to chuckle when they describe you and me as being dangerous. We are dangerous to the status quo.
We are in the business of ending genocide. End the lockdowns, end the wars, and there is no force on this earth powerful enough to stop an idea whose time has come.
It's of little doubt the WEF Klaus and their what have yous, the Janets, the Soroses, the Liz's, you get it, that whole big group. It spans internationally. It's a great big club, and you and I are not welcome. And good.
Because fuck them, that's why.
And we do not need them, as Milei has stated. Bitcoin is here to return money to its rightful place.
Bitcoin. Se habla de bitcoins en los medios, se habla de bitcoins todo el tiempo. No sabemos bien qué son los bitcoins, pero ya hay gente que lo pondera como una especie de alternativa monetaria. ¿Vos creés que es posible en Argentina esa discusión?
A ver, ¿cuál es el punto? El punto es que lo primero que hay que comprender es que el Banco Central es una estafa. ¿Sí? Es un mecanismo por el cual los políticos estafan a las personas de bien con el impuesto inflacionario. El Bitcoin lo que está representando es la vuelta del dinero a su creador originario, que es el sector privado. El dinero es una invención del sector privado para resolver problemas, digamos, lo que tiene que ver con, en una economía de trueque sería la doble coincidencia y la indivisibilidad, y después aparece el papel, digamos, como una cuestión de portabilidad. O sea, porque en realidad vos tuviste distintas monedas, o sea, tuviste el lino, el trigo, digamos, la sal, de ahí viene salario, de ahí sí. La superstición de si se cae la sal en la mesa, y eso evolucionó y las monedas que eligieron los agentes, que fueron los individuos, eligieron la plata para las transacciones chicas, el oro para las transacciones grandes, y eso después, digamos, como era un peligro cargarlo, entonces ¿qué hacían? Lo dejaban depositado y se llevaban un comprobante de que estaba eso ahí. Y después en 1445, digamos, en el primer congreso de Génova, digamos, los estados se apropiaron de, digamos, de tener la exclusividad para poder emitir. Es que es el curso forzoso, que esta es la clave. ¿Por qué? Porque el curso forzoso es lo que le permite a los políticos robarte con el impuesto inflacionario. El Bitcoin no, digamos, tiene un algoritmo y un día va a llegar a una determinada cantidad y no hay más. Y puede competir con otras monedas. De hecho, compite contra Ethereum, compite contra otras. ¿Y qué es lo interesante? Que es la vuelta al sector privado. Pero ¿cuál es el problema? El problema es que los estados no te van a querer ceder que el curso forzoso, porque del curso forzoso te estafan con el impuesto inflacionario. Entonces, el Bitcoin es la reacción natural frente a la estafa que son los bancos centrales y que el dinero vuelva a ser privado, y la contracara es que los políticos ladrones no te van a permitir ir contra el curso forzoso. ¿Qué es lo que pasa? Cuando vos tenés economías con alta inflación y el problema de la estafa es más claro, entonces hasta podés discutir, como digamos planteo yo, directamente eliminar el Banco Central.
What many don't realize about money is that it is a system of control. No one broke it down better than the great Dr. Paul.
There is no other power greater than the power over money, the power to create and contract the money supply, the power to control the purchasing power of your money. Throughout history, this has proven to be the most sought-after monopolistic power of man. And it has become more sophisticated over the decades and over the centuries, more sophisticated now and more international in scope than ever before. So I see the issue of power and the control over money as being something that we cannot ignore, we must address. I believe closely associated with this is the issue of morality as well. By what moral right do we have to create purchasing power out of thin air? Whether it's done by the creation of credit or Federal Reserve notes, or whether it's the creation of SDRs in an international scope, by what right do they do this? Is it any more moral to dilute the value of your purchasing power of the money you hold in your wallet than it is for the farmer to dilute the milk supply with water? I would say there's an issue of morality here just as strong as the issue of power. I also happen to believe also, because it's a moral issue more than an economic issue, it is for this reason that the people have lost trust in their government, trust in the banks, trust in business, trust in themselves, and that we are a nation of distrust. And it's for this reason I believe that until we restore trust in government, trust in the system, and trust in the money, there will be no resolution of this problem. It is the issue of trust in people and trust in money that must come before you can start talking about nickeling and diming it, trying to get back to a balanced budget, because that certainly hasn't worked.
Klaus, the WEF, you know this group of people and organizations. They want to have control over all of us, and they won't need to enforce their draconian Agenda 2030 at the point of a gun, because they're going to do it through a technocratic panopticon of economic fascism vis-a-vis a CBDC. It's important to remember that Bitcoin is the antithesis of this. It is your shield, but it doesn't end there. We can't sit idly by. We have to spread the peaceful revolution. We have to challenge them, because the ideas of freedom, that desire to be free, it's coursing through all of our veins right now. Tap into that, and let's step into the lion's den as Milei did, fearlessly. And here are some of the best moments dubbed in Milei's voice in English using AI. Viva Libertad, carajo!
Good afternoon. Thank you very much. Today I am present to inform you that the Western world is facing a significant threat. It is in danger because those who are supposed to defend the values of the Western world are co-opted by a worldview that inevitably leads to socialism and consequently to poverty and economic deprivation. Unfortunately, in recent decades, motivated by some well-intentioned desires to help others and others by the desire to belong to a privileged caste, the main leaders of the Western world have abandoned the model of freedom for different versions of what we call collectivism. We are here to tell you that collectivist experiments are never the solution to the problems that afflict the citizens of the world, but rather they are their cause. The conclusion is obvious. Far from being the cause of our problems, free market capitalism as an economic system is the only tool we have to end hunger, poverty, and destitution throughout the planet. But this concept that has become trendy in the developed world recently, in my country, it has been a constant in political discourse for over 80 years. The issue is that social justice is unfair and doesn't contribute to general well-being. On the contrary, it's an inherently unfair idea because it's violent. It's unfair because the state is financed through taxes, and taxes are collected coercively. Or can any of us confidently say that they pay taxes of their own free will? This implies that the state is funded through coercion, and that the higher the tax burden, the greater the coercion, leading to a reduction in freedom. Those who promote social justice start from the idea that the economy as a whole is a cake that can be distributed in a different way. But that cake is not given. It is wealth that is generated in what, for example, Israel Kirchner calls a market discovery process. Create a high-quality product at a good price or attractive, succeed and produce more, so the market is a process of discovery where the capitalist finds the right direction on the go. But if the state punishes the capitalist for success and blocks him in this process, it destroys his incentives, and the consequences are that he will produce less and the cake will be smaller, generating harm to society. Collectivism, by inhibiting discovery and hindering appropriation, ties the entrepreneur's hands, preventing him from producing better goods and offering better services at a better price. How can it be then that from academia, international orgs, politics and econ theory, an econ system is demonized that not only has lifted 90% of the world's pop out of extreme poverty and does so increasingly faster, but is also fair and morally superior? Thanks to capitalism, the world is currently in its best moment. There has never been a moment in history with greater prosperity than the one we live in today. Today's world is freer, richer, more peaceful, and more prosperous than ever before. This is true for everyone, but particularly for those countries that are free, where they respect economic freedom and individual property rights. Because free countries are 12 times richer than repressed ones. Saying goes that in countries with freedom, people live better than 90% of population in repressed countries. It has 25 times fewer poor people in the standard format and 50 times fewer in the extreme format. And if that weren't enough, citizens of free countries live 25% longer than citizens of repressed countries. It is important to define what we mean when we talk about libertarianism. To define it, I take up the words of the greatest proponent of the ideas of freedom in Argentina, Professor Alberto Venegas Lynch, who says that libertarianism is the unrestricted respect for the life project of others, based on the principle of non-aggression and in defense of the right to life, liberty, and property, whose fundamental institutions are private property, free markets without state intervention, free competition, division of labor, and social cooperation, where one can only be successful by serving others with goods of better quality at a better price. In other words, the capitalist, the successful entrepreneur, is a social benefactor who contributes to the well-being of society as a whole. In short, a successful entrepreneur is a hero. This is the model that we are proposing for the future of Argentina, a model based on the fundamental principles of libertarianism, the defense of life, freedom, and property. Socialism is always and everywhere impoverishing, failed in all countries where attempted. It was a failure economically, it was a failure socially, it was a failure culturally, and it also killed more than 100 million human beings. The main problem of the West today is that we not only have to confront those who, even after the fall of the wall and overwhelming evidence, continue to advocate for impoverishing socialism, but also our own leaders, thinkers, and academics who, sheltered in a misguided framework, undermine the foundations of the system that has given us the greatest wealth and prosperity in our history. It would quickly be seen that it is impossible for there to be such a thing as a market failure. The market is not just a graphical description of a supply curve and a demand curve on a graph. The market is a mechanism of social cooperation where property rights are voluntarily exchanged. Thus, considering this definition, discussing market failure is a contradiction in terms. There is no market failure. If transactions are voluntary, the only situation in which there can be a market failure is if there is coercion present. And the only one with the ability to coerce in a general is the state that possesses the monopoly of violence. Consequently, if someone considers that there is a market failure, I would recommend that they check if there is state intervention in the middle. If no state intervention found, suggest reanalyzing, as it is definitely wrong. Market failures do not exist. In other words, each time you want to correct a presumed market failure, inevitably, due to not knowing the market or because you have become attached to a failed model, you are opening doors to socialism and condemning people to poverty. The solution that collectivists will propose is not greater freedom, but greater regulation, generating a downward spiral of regulations until we all become poorer and the lives of all of us depend on a bureaucrat sitting in a luxury office. Neo-Marxists have managed to co-opt the common sense of the Western world. They achieved this through the appropriation of the media, culture, universities, and yes, even international organizations. The final case is very serious, as it involves institutions with huge influence on the political and economic decisions of the countries in these multilateral organizations. Fortunately, more of us dare to raise our voices, as we see that if we don't confront these ideas head-on, the only possible destiny is more state, more regulation, more socialism, more poverty, less freedom, and consequently, a worse quality of life. Unfortunately, the West has already started down this path. To many, it may sound ridiculous to suggest that the West has embraced socialism, but this view is only ridiculous if one limits themselves to the traditional economic definition of socialism, which states that it is an economic system where the state owns the means of production. In my opinion, this definition needs to be updated to reflect the current circumstances from my perspective. Today, states don't need to control means of production to control every aspect of individuals' life. With tools such as monetary issuance, debt, subsidies, interest rate control, price controls, and regulations to correct alleged market failures, they can control the destinies of millions of human beings. This is how we have reached the point where, with different names or forms, good parts of the politically accepted offers in most Western countries are generally collectivist variants, whether they openly declare themselves as communists, fascists, Nazis, socialists, social democrats, national socialists, Christian Democrats, Keynesians, neo-Keynesians, progressives, populists, nationalists, or globalists. In the end, there are no substantive differences. Everyone argues that the state should control all aspects of individuals' lives. All define a model contrary to the one that led humanity to the most spectacular progress in its history. We are here today to extend an invitation to the other Western countries to resume the path towards prosperity, economic freedom, limited government, and unrestricted respect for private property are vital for economic growth. The impoverishment that collectivism produces is not a fantasy, nor is it fatalism. It is a reality that Argentinians have known very well for at least 100 years. Because we have already experienced it, we have already gone through this. Because as I said before, since we decided to abandon the model of freedom that had made us rich, we are trapped in a downward spiral where we are getting poorer every day. We have already experienced it ourselves, and we are here to warn you about what can happen if Western countries who became rich with the model of freedom continue on this path of servitude. The Argentine case is the empirical proof that regardless of wealth, natural resources, population capability, education level, or the amount of gold bars in the central bank's coffers, these factors do not guarantee success. If measures are adopted that hinder the free functioning of markets, free competition, free price systems, if trade is hindered, if private property is attacked, the only possible destination is poverty. To summarize, I want to convey a message to all entrepreneurs present and those who are not but are following us from around the globe, whether they're here or not physically. Don't be intimidated by the political caste or the parasites who live off the state. Don't yield to a political class that only wants to prolong its power and preserve its privileges. You are social benefactors. You are heroes. You are the creators of the most extraordinary era of prosperity we have ever experienced. Don't let anyone say ambition is immoral. If you earn money, it's because you provide a superior product, better price, contributing to well-being. Do not yield to the advance of the state. The state is not the solution. The state is the problem itself. You are the true protagonists of this story, and know that from today, you have Argentina as an unconditional ally. Thank you very much, and long life freedom. Damn it.
Put it in my veins! God bless Javier Milei, man.
Milei has gone absolutely viral, and I think it's obvious who was the people's champ in Davos. 2008 spurred the 2009 Genesis block. It was also the launch of a second epic campaign by Ron Paul focused on ending the Fed. What a preposterous notion, they said. But look at where we are now. The talk of reining in three-letter agencies is part of major political platforms, dismantling the IRS, ending the welfare warfare state, returning to sound money, i.e. Bitcoin. It's always darkest before the dawn. And while they like to dwell in the darkness, the fires of liberty, the beacons, are being lit. You have two choices ahead, and the battle is just beginning. Will you be a sheep managed by the state, or are you going to be a sovereign individual? Guys, the key to separating money from state is taking self-custody of your Bitcoin. And if you're just getting started in Bitcoin, need to get some Bitcoin off exchanges, or looking to take your setup to the next level, Simply Bitcoin Originals are powered by the Bitcoin Way, and as your dedicated Bitcoin IT team, the Bitcoin Way is here to guide you from start to finish on your journey to properly self-custody your Bitcoin. What's more, they've recently introduced 100% focused collaborative custody services where you'll benefit from advanced multi-sig security, inheritance planning, and much more while remaining 100% in control. Hey, looking to get started? Book a free 30-minute call using that link below. I hope you guys enjoyed this one. The fistful of freedom was delivered to Davos. The freedom train, the peaceful Bitcoin revolution, it's just leaving the station, and it ain't stopping for nobody. Hey guys, don't forget to like, subscribe, share the Sound Money Gospel. Remember, every time you share the Sound Money Gospel, you make a status cry, so do it. Do it today. Hey, check those links below, drop us some memes, and be sure to follow us on Twitter, where we're getting all the latest breaking news. Set those notifications, keep tuning in to Simply Bitcoin, and we will be your guide through the peaceful Bitcoin revolution. I'll catch you all next time. Peace.
If you prefer to go down with the ship, fuck you.